Okay, so we're looking at this lovely graphing calculator. This is an excellent calculator, by the way. This is the TI-83 Texas Instruments graphing calculator. This particular calculator has been around for, oh boy, I'm going to guess at least 20 years. Okay, and I still have three or four of these in my little inventory, but I have more advanced or more up-to-date calculators, a TI-84, etc. And depending on what course you're in, you may be required to have a specific calculator. But if you're just need a good graphing calculator, I would definitely suggest picking up a TI-83. They're about $100, so definitely want to protect them. But when you get a calculator like this or any calculator, look at what's going on. We have a ton of buttons here. We're like, what the heck? How much, who's going to teach me how to use this thing, right? It's like, well, your teacher should teach you how to use some of these things. But my question to you is, well, right now, how many of these buttons do you know? All right. Well, even if you're an engineering student in college, most, I would say even an engineering student, right, would probably get to know maybe like 80% of these buttons. Nobody, at least that I know of, and I'm sure there's people out there that know 100% of all these functions because this is effectively a computer. Okay, well, I would say there are some few people that are pretty serious into mathematics, but we don't need to know 80% or 100%. But what I'm going to do is walk you through some common buttons on a scientific or graphing calculator that you may not know what they are. So we're going to go through these one by one, but here I'm actually going to show you a bigger view of this calculator, and we'll just kind of pick out some main functions, some buttons, and kind of review some things that you're definitely going to have to use if you're dealing with, let's say, at least high school level mathematics or college level mathematics. Now, you wouldn't use something like this in middle school. You'd still be using like a TI 30. I think that's the calculator, but that's a scientific calculator. And the difference between a scientific calculator and a graphing calculator is obviously we can have graphs here on our graphing calculator. So these are really cool. And again, they're about $100 plus. So if you do decide to get one, make sure you safeguard it because unfortunately, people like to take other people's calculators. But anyways, we're going to get into these buttons here in just one second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. And as I said, I am a middle and high school math teacher. And over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. You can check out my math help program by following the link in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses ranging from pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. I'm going to be launching pre-calculus here shortly. And in pre-calculus, you use a pretty good amount of these buttons. Okay, so again, how many buttons you're going to need to know is directly proportional to, the level of math you're taking. Okay, the more advanced math, you're going to definitely need to know more of these buttons. But we're going to just highlight some common ones here in this little quick video. But beyond pre-calculus, I also have many courses in the area of test preparation. So if you're studying for the GED, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, AccuPlacer, ALEX, CLEP exam, maybe a teacher certification exam, I can definitely help you out. Just go to my site and you can see my full course catalog. If I do not have the exam you're studying for, drop me a line and I'll help you out the best I can. I also do a lot with independent learners like homeschoolers. So if you homeschool, I have a great homeschool learning program. Then obviously help those of you that are just struggling in your current math courses. Now, if you're truly serious about wanting to learn math and do well in mathematics, then you got to do this. You got to take great math notes. So over decades of teaching mathematics, this is the key. This is the secret sauce that is behind students getting grades like this. Okay. Now, I don't think I've ever seen any of my students who've gotten like A's and A pluses not have excellent notes. This is really the connection because this is showing that you are focusing. Okay, so if you want to really improve in math or learn math, you got to take great notes. Now, the reverse is true. If you blow off note taking, you just want to talk to your buddies in class, etc., all the stuff that I did way back in the good old 1980s, I know how it goes, but then you don't complain about your grades if you're getting grades like that. Okay, so again, that's why I asked you if you are serious about wanting to be successful in mathematics, you got to start with your notes. Now, in the meantime, you need something to study from. So I offer detailed comprehensive math notes. You can use mine. Those would include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and trigonometry. You can find the links to those notes in the description of this video as well. All right, let's go ahead and talk about these buttons. I'm going to show you bigger view here of our lovely TI-83. Matter of fact, you probably get a used one on, I don't know, eBay or whatever site they sell on Amazon. That's still a great calculator. Now, the one thing I would say is consideration if you are thinking about buying a scientific calculator is that some courses would require more advanced calculators. So let's say you buy the TI-83 and then you go to take a statistics course or something like that. Your teacher may want you to have the TI-84 as a requirement. So it's a little consideration there. But again, you can get a used one, a 20-year-old used graphing calculator, and they're still awesome. Okay, so these things don't change much. But now, if you have a scientific calculator, right, that's perfectly fine because a lot of these buttons are going to be on a scientific calculator as well. So let's go ahead and start talking about these buttons. All right, so obviously here, okay, we have our keyboard, all right, our numbers that we plug in. Every calculator is going to have our basic functions. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then of course we hit enter. Now, what happens if I want to do -2 plus -7? Okay, so what button do I use for the negative to make these numbers negative? Do you know what number that is? Or what button that is? Now, it's not this button. It's not the subtraction. It's this guy, all right? So I'm just starting kind of semi-random here to point out some of these buttons. So that little button down there is how we make a negative number. Now, most calculators, you should have something like this. So if you're like, well, how do I do a negative number? It's not this, it's this one, okay? So again, whether you have a scientific calculator, look for another button that makes your numbers negative. All right, let's kind of play around with something like this. How would we figure out 2 to the 5th power? 2 to the 5th power using our calculator. Now, 2 to the 5th power is what? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. We're going to, we're not going to want to type this into our calculator, all these in, and hit enter. We want to take advantage of powers or bases and exponents. So how would I express this? Now, I'm going to tell you the answer here, but let's do something easier. How about 3 squared? How would I do 3 squared? Of course, that's 9, okay? But you can see right here we have a lovely squared button, x squared. So if you typed in 3 and hit that thing, you would get 9. So that's like a convenient little button there. And then as far as the square root goes, I didn't forget about this 2 to the 5th. So just hold on one second. So if I have the square root of 9, I'm going to hit that second function, and then you have to look on the keyboard. You see that little square root right there, right there. Okay, that's how we take square roots of numbers. So just basic things. Now, to get back to finding more advanced powers, I would say more advanced, more complicated things where we want to have a base and an exponent beyond 2. Okay, that's just the squared. So 2 to the 5th, how would I do that on my calculator? Well, I'm going to show you this right now. Okay, so do you know what button to use? All right, so this is a question I'm asking those of you out there. And if your expression is like, I don't know which one. Well, it depends on your calculator. Every calculator is a little bit different. You're either going to have this guy, all right, your scientific calculator would have something like this, but in this case, I don't see that button, right? So this is the button that we're going to be using. This is called a caret. And I don't know why that's called a caret. I'm sure somebody smarter than me knows why this is called the caret function. But anyways, it's right there. Okay, so the little thing right there, the upside down V. So we would go 2 caret 5 and hit enter. And if my math is pretty good today, that would be 32. All right, so this is how we find powers. Now, let's talk about where students make a lot of mistakes with this function. So what if I wanted to go 3 to the 2/5 power? 3 to the 2/5 power. So how would I do that? So most of you out there would be like, okay, well, now you just taught me about this button here. When you go, here, let me write this. When you go 3 caret 2 divided by 5, is this not the same as that? And I plug into my calculator. If I do this, I hit enter, why don't I get the answer for this, right? It makes sense. That's what I just told you, right? So this is 3 to the 2/5 power. However, this is wrong, 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 wrong. This right here is not the correct answer. All right, let me show you what you just did right here. This is, you got to remember the order of operations. This is 3 squared. Okay, what you just did right here is 3 squared divided by 5. All right, this is 3 squared divided by, remember we do powers first and then division. So this is how a lot of students end up looking like this, you know, when they see their grades and they're like, oh, wait, I did it right, I did it right. No, you did not do that right. So anytime you're taking powers, and the exponent's a rational exponent, like some sort of fraction, you got to put it in grouping symbols. So those are right there. Okay, so there's little like parentheses. Use those guys, use those grouping symbols. So remember, your calculator is just a tool, all right? You still need to know math, and these are just little common things that I'm telling you that I've seen students make plenty of errors with throughout the years. But here, let's just identify another button. That's how we clear um, the calculator, obviously. Now, let's talk about these buttons here real quick. And if you don't know what these are, this is sine, cosine, and tangent. This has to do with trigonometry, okay? So we're finding the angle right here, and I have, let's say, a right triangle, and I know this side. Let's say this is 3 and 4. I could find this angle by using the tangent, okay? Actually, this little one, if you look on the keyboard, this little tangent -1 right here, I'll kind of highlight it right there. So of course, anytime you want to use that in orange, you have to hit that second button, and that brings up, this is what we call arctangent, okay? So sine, cosine, and tangent, this has to do with trigonometry. And how do we use it? Well, if I want to find the sine of 60 degrees, okay, I would just type it in, sine 60 degrees. Now, there's something that you need to know, okay? When you're dealing with trigonometry, we can describe angles as either degrees and or radians, okay? This is very, very common. So you have to go into the mode, okay, that mode button on this calculator. Now, all calculators, even a scientific calculator, should have some sort of mode button, and you can switch between degrees and radians. Very, very important. And again, I've seen plenty of students make mistakes because I'd say, tell me the sine of 60 degrees. Their calculator is in radian mode. They go in and they do sine 60 degrees. Well, they just give me their answer in radians, which is completely wrong, okay? So you got to be very aware when you're dealing with these trigonometric functions that you're in either degrees or radians, whatever you need to be in for that particular work. But that's what these buttons are right there. Okay, so I'm kind of circling the ones that we kind of covered. This little guy right here, x to the -1, that's just the reciprocal, okay? Let me go ahead and erase that. So anything to the -1 is going to give you a reciprocal. So let's say I have 3, okay? 3 to the -1 is 1 over 3. So that's basically that, just kind of flips values. Now let's see here, what else do we got? Let's talk about these guys right here. LOG and LN, because we're making some pretty good progress here with this scientific calculator. LOG and LN, these are logarithms, okay? This is the natural logarithm, okay, log base 10, and this LN is log base E. So this is the natural log, okay? And so if I want to find um, uh, the logarithm of anything that has to deal with e, so let's say e to the x is equal to 7, I could solve this equation by finding the ln of both sides. Okay, this is what I would need to do in that case. So the ln button, because this is base e. Now, some of you out there might be completely lost, like, I don't understand what you're doing. That's okay. I'm just, giving you a quick overview this is how we would use this button, ln, okay? So ln is just simply a logarithm. If you don't know about logarithms, don't worry about it. You'll definitely learn this somewhere along the lines of like Algebra 2, college algebra, etc. But you'll definitely be using this, okay? If you're going to be taking anything at an algebra or beyond level, like algebra 2, all these buttons that I'm covering here, you're going to be using, okay? So if you're not using them now, you will be using them if you're going to progress into that level of math. Now, the log button would be like this. If I had 2 to the x is equal to 12, well, to solve this equation, I would take the log of both sides. Okay, that's the common logarithm. All right, and then again, I would have to go to my calculator, type in 12, hit log 12, enter, and I would get the value for that. All right, let's talk about a few other quick things here, then we'll wrap this up. Again, there's a lot going on in here. There's statistical things. There's stuff I can use to program this calculator, form matrices and arrays. That's kind of getting a little bit beyond the scope of what I want to be talking about. But let's talk about how to graph something, because this is super cool. So let's say I wanted to graph like a parabola or circle or lines, all that kind of cool stuff. That's the real, fun part of using a graphing calculator. So how do we graph something like, let's say, a line like y equals 2x plus 1? All right, let's talk about that real quick. Now, again, I'm talking about this TI-83, but this is fairly universal stuff. Now, if you have a scientific calculator, obviously you're not going to be able to do this, but if you continue to learn math, you're going to have to get yourself a graphing calculator. So let's talk about this real quick. So first thing is I need to I need to be in the right function mode for my calculator. So I'm going to have to go to mode here, and you'll see different options, okay? So you can be in, I don't remember, I think it's function mode, I want to say. I'm just kind of going by memory. But you have function mode, you have polar, okay? You have parametric, all right? So these are different ways that we could graph different types of functions and ways we can graph things on our calculator. But we want to be in the first one. I believe it's called function, and the TI-83, TI-84. But it will be the default setting, okay? But if you wanted to graph something in polar coordinates or a parametric equation, and don't worry if you don't understand what I'm talking about, this is stuff you'll need to know. This is stuff I teach in my pre-calculus course. You'll have to go into your mode and switch that. But here is the key. You see this button right here? Okay, it has like a little X, T, an angle, and N. So this is the one you want to be using. When you hit this button, you want to bring up the variable X. Okay, this is how we type in stuff. So this is how we type in a Y. All right, let's go ahead and just do this now. And real quick, again, I don't want to, this can get fairly advanced. So if it's y equals 2x plus 1, especially if we don't know these other functions like parametric and polar, and then this is sequential, this is some other stuff, and we're not even talking about this, okay? So again, kind of keep this basic. So let's go ahead and graph this line. So I'm going to type in y. There's my y. Okay. So actually see it says y equals. Okay. So that's that part. So then when you'll see your window pop in, and you'll be using the x variable. You're going to be using this button for all these different functions. But if it's in the function mode, anytime you hit this button, an x will pop up. So you'll literally just type in 2. You'll hit this X right here, you'll hit that button, okay, this button here, an X will pop up, and then you hit +1, and that will be in your screen right up here. And then, what do I need to do to actually see the graph? Well, you hit this lovely button called Graph, okay? Hit that, and then you should see a nice line, something like that, pop up. Now, to adjust the views, then you can go into this zoom factor, okay? You can kind of zoom out and zoom in and zoom out. And then the window setting right here will actually, it's kind of like, you can change the dimensions of the window size. You have to kind of mess around with these things. Now this trace function, that's pretty cool as well, because if you're dealing with, let's say, a polynomial, all right, something like this, the trace will allow you to actually trace through the graph, and it will give you specific values, coordinates, and whatnot. Very, very useful when we're studying more advanced equations. Anyways, so then here you can obviously, move your cursor and everything else around on this graph, but let's take a look at how many buttons we covered, all right? We covered a pretty good amount, and I would say for the majority of stuff that you're going to be doing in mathematics, all the way up to probably even calculus, I would say this is going to cover 90% plus of what you're going to be doing. Now, if you are dealing with things called matrices and arrays or some other stuff you're going to be doing, but again, the good majority of stuff that you're going to be covering from algebra, algebra 2, geometry, pre-calculus, college algebra, even up to pretty well in calculus, there'll be some additional things that you'll need to know, but this covers quite a bit. Now, if you knew, all these buttons that I was talking about, that's pretty good, okay? If you learned something, if you're just kind of curious about, hey, I got this calculator, I have no idea what it does, well, now you know, okay? Now, what's the key, though? Well, the key is that you have to learn the math. You got to study the math to have any use for these particular buttons, but, you know, uh, again, don't feel compelled like you have to learn every single function on a calculator. It's just too much, okay? Again, I'm speaking about calculators. This calculator here is 20 plus years old. The calculators today, even then, we still had the ability to plug this into a computer and work with software, etc. So there's even other stuff that I'm kind of leaving out. But in terms of basic functions that you need to know at the kind of high school, college level math that most students are going to be taking. Of course, we're not talking about statistics. Statistics is a whole other thing. There are some other functions in there that you'll need to know. But outside of that, these are the most common buttons that you're going to be running into. All right, so hopefully this was interesting and maybe useful to some degree. And if that's the case, please consider smashing that like button. That helps me out. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. I've been on YouTube for 10 plus years, have over 1,000 plus videos, and I'm posting content all the time. Basic to advanced math, that's what you'll find on my channel. So if you like my teaching style, please watch my videos. That's why I make them. Okay, my goal was to try to teach math in a clear and understandable way. That's what I try to strive to do. If you need help in mathematics, okay, what do? Well, you got to start with your notes. Again, talk to your teacher. And if you need help beyond that, there's a ton of free resources like things on my channel, okay, or go find someone else's videos, right? Just get the help you need. But if you like learning from me, my best math help will be within my Math Help program. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.